All right, so I released my showcase video for Narumi, and I still need more time to figure him out. So stay tuned, because tomorrow we'll be doing more showcases with him. We'll test him out with the other weapon. We'll do a video for the new Fierce Battle Arena permanent stages, and we will also do a how to build guide on him, etc. So there's going to be quite a bit. It's pretty late tonight, so stay tuned for that content. But I wanted to get this video out because this was going to be tomorrow, but I wanted to get it out so you guys know sooner and don't have to wait. But we're going to talk about, is Gen worth it? We're going to talk about the pros and the cons, and this is mostly just from my initial 40 minutes of playing with him. Again, I did that video. Check it out. But we're going to talk about, is Gen worth it? So hopefully you guys enjoy. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe. If you're new, 80% of viewers aren't subscribed, so make sure you do subscribe if that happens to be you. Maybe you're somebody that's been watching the channel for a while but hasn't hit that button, because I know the algorithm is good about serving videos if you enjoy certain videos. So firstly, thank you for watching, but help us cook the books. I appreciate you. And if this video is helpful, make sure you share it with your friends, Discord, etc., because I've seen people asking about that as well. So firstly, you should pull for Gen because he's friggin' awesome. Look at the art. It's okay. We're done. It's simple. It's done. On a side note, really quick, they need to add a customization option for the masks. I think all these characters look really good with the masks, and I need to see the masks. So, in all seriousness, though, really quick answer, is Gen worth it? Simple answer, yes. I do think he's worth it. So firstly, he's a limited character. So who knows when he comes back. Unfortunate that the FOMO, fear of missing out, is a thing with him, just like it is with Sagan. She is now, if you wanted to get Sagan and you are new to the game, because she's heavily featured in the first few chapters of the story, and say you just started with Steam, she was completely unavailable, and she still is a few weeks later. So I don't know when that'll be the case for when she's available again. Gen is in that exact same boat. He will not be in the standard gachas or the pickup gacha, I should say, afterwards, like every other character is, right? Aside from Sagan. So that is one of the main reasons why you should be getting Gen right now, because we don't know the timeline. It could be 6 months. It could be 3 months. I don't know, right? We'll find out with Sagan what it looks like generally, assuming they adhere to that. But that is the number one reason that you should pull for Gen. Now, moving on. The weapon. So firstly, the weapon is solid, but I'm going to do some, like I said, I'm going to do showcases with him with the old weapon and stuff. I don't think this is a case where you need to mandatory get that weapon. I kind of felt that way about Chester outright initially, because there are so many good rifles with Chester, but I do think his weapon is really good because of support on it too. I think you do want Chester's, but I think you could do without it. And I think that's the same case here with Narumi. I think his weapon is good, and you want that crit damage, but I think you could do without it. I don't think this is a mandatory thing. Now, you're more likely to get the weapon than you are to get the character, I believe, because there's a 5% rate. However, they both may be at 1% in here, so I guess it's kind of, they're both, okay, so it's the same thing. So if you got the weapon, you had a chance. You basically lost a 50-50. It's not a real 50-50, but that's pretty much what happened here. Anyway, so moving on from that, I guess it's not, because the rate's 8%, but moving on, right? Moving on. So aside from that, what does Gen do well? What does he not do well? So from what I can tell, and this is unfortunate, it is what it is, and I've called it. I called it in all my videos. The initial thing people do and are going to do until this guy is covered or usurped as the top DPS in the game is every single character, especially if they're an attack-focused character that releases, will immediately get compared to Hoshina. And so if you thought he was going to get taken over in terms of damage, that's not happening here. Frankly, that probably won't happen for a few months because he is so ahead of schedule on damage. That's why he really stands out, because he does 3 times the damage that the rest of the game does. And I'm not joking with that. Because when he picks up resonance, the combat skill makes him do so much more damage. And so you have a weird situation where I've been saying for a month now that you don't need to worry about plate breaking. You can just take in this guy and blow it up, because that's been the case, right? And it still is the case. Even with the level 100 content, that's still the case. Now, I don't know if they've put higher levels in the new Fierce Battle, but that's still been the case. But then you have a character on the complete opposite end of the spectrum who says, let me break plates for you in droves. And he's not only going to break the plates in droves, he's going to break plates that you don't even have coverage of. For example, he can break an elemental plate. He can break a blunt plate, and that means you don't need to even put these characters on your team, because when you trigger the scene through, hit 5 times, he will break 3 random plates. Now, if the enemy has a grip of plates, right, then maybe you're not going to break the plates you really need to break in that situation. That's the one hole in this, I guess. Maybe you'll break all physical plates and you really need it to pop that elemental, but that's not been my experience so far with him. So you've got a character that literally does a once, I don't want to say once in a lifetime, but like the only character in the game that does a mechanic like this. And you know the funny thing about Gen is at the bare minimum, he is a top-end support character, like easily an S-tier support character. He's not the best support character, but he's easily one of the top strongest ones in the game because at the bare minimum, he can give, at level 10 anyway, 30% damage for 2 turns to everybody, including himself, but everybody. Assuming they attack the kaiju that's in seen through state. So that means he needs to throw his ultimate first, but he starts with plus 100 ultimate gauge. So he's going to throw the ultimate in 2 attacks, 2 combat skills. We'll give him that ultimate guaranteed. And then he's going to put seen through on. That's going to trigger the plate mechanic after so many hits. But all the while, when they do those attacks to build up to those 5 hits, they will be getting 2 turns worth of 27 currently % damage increase. So at the bare minimum, he is a top-end support character due to the usability of this, and I actually really value it because it's in a passive and it's not tied to using, SP or anything like that, right? Because you can get a bigger buff from Hoshina 4-star or Mina 4-star, but you also have to go out of your way to use their skills as well. That is something entirely different. It is in the passive, so I would say that I like that just a bit more because there's more flexibility for the rest of your team. Speaking of that, he's also not so SP hungry because when he hits those core exposed, he will get 1 SP back. I forget that it's when core exposed, but regardless, getting an SP back here is really strong and useful. But he is a character that is not going to blow away the game in terms of damage. If the bar is Hoshina, no character clears that, right? Now let's change the bar. If the bar is Renault, right? Let's set the bar at Renault, right? My initial assessment is that Renault is a stronger character offensively. In terms of pure damage, Renault is a stronger character. Renault also has that chip damage in there. And in my opinion anyway, the best thing in Renault's kit, he does good damage. You can buff him up a good bit. Like I can get over 160,000. The best thing with Renault though is this freeze and action order delay. This is insane utility, right? Especially because it can trigger across the board because it's a blast attack. It's an adjacent move. He can do that to several enemies at once. It's extremely strong, right? And then also, I think his weapon is also better for the record. I think this weapon fits Renault more than this new weapon does, but I'm probably just pretty low and maybe a little bit biased against the new Gen's weapon, so take that with a grain of salt, if you will. Now, obviously, my new Gen has room for improvement, right? So it's a little bit tricky to gauge him at his max potential when he's not at his max potential. But I've seen all these characters come and perform for me, and so I feel like I know what I'm talking about, probably more than most people, because I've invested and built into so many characters and put them into this exact same situation and seen their output relative. And so with that being said, his damage does not, I don't think, compare to Renault at all. Now, is that a knock necessarily? No. But I do think that if the argument is he going to compare in pure damage, then no. I think with Gen, and frankly with old Kikuru, or with the new Kikuru as well, to a lesser degree, because I think he's far better than her, you have to look outside the box a little bit with these characters, outside of pure damage. I got a comment that said, oh, this guy does mid damage, Hoshina is still better. Yes and no. Like, I still consider Hoshina the strongest character in the game, but I do think Gen and Renault, for that matter, are going to age better. Now, in Hoshina's defense, I can't use that against him until it happens. Like, you just can't. I don't think that's fair to say support characters or utility characters age better than pure DPSs do, because we know that from every other turn-based game. And while that may be true, until that happens, he's still the best character in the game. And it just is what it is. So, with Narumi, to conclude, do I think he's worth it? Yes. Is he very good? Yes. If I did a tier list, which I'll do another one, is he an S tier character? Yes. I think he has enough pros in his kit that make him very strong. He's got the dual element. I don't love that he's single target though. That is something that makes it to where old Gen is still S tier as well. He didn't get dropped down my list, for the record, because he's blast attacking. This guy's pure single target. At the bare minimum, the 30% support is good, right? That is really strong for 2 turns. The ability to have coverage of plates that you don't have on your team, to break plates you don't have coverage for on your team, is extremely broken. However, like I've mentioned time and time again with Hoshina, you don't necessarily need plate breaking right now. So what I think is going to wind up happening is, again, Gen's going to age really well into that mechanic. And as time goes on, he's going to be more valuable. For right now, maybe you could decide to wait, even though I do think he's worth it, right? Does that make sense? I think if you pull for him, you'll get good investment. You'll get the bang for your buck. But I also think you could potentially wait, because if you have Hoshina, if you have Chester, you can beat anything. Frankly, you don't need those characters at all. But if you have them, you're especially well off, right? So that is mostly it. I wanted to cover that because I knew that would be something that I think people are going to kind of talk about, compare, all that stuff. But I mean, if it's not Renault, I think every other character is fair game. Like, I think he's at least as good as every other character in the game. And I don't think he's that far behind Renault either, though. The thing with that is that I think that if you're taking on content that's like one wave, he's kind of slow. I mentioned this initially, like it's kind of slow getting to the scene through. But if there's multiple waves, he's fine, because then he's throwing ultimates consistently. He is the second best character in the game behind the new Kikuru at ultimate spamming. He is the second best character at that. And it's not even really all that close. Like, these are characters that throw their ultimate consistently every other turn. And other characters need a little bit more time, or they'll need follow-ups or other things to help them get there just a bit more. But he is the second best character at that. And so as a result, like I mentioned in the very beginning, I think this really hampered Kikuru. They lowered her attack stat. It's very apparent. And that may also be the case for Gen. I don't think his attack stat's going to get anywhere near some of these other characters. I mean, look at Ren. He's at 2,800. Oshiro's probably pretty high too. These are 2,700. These are old characters from launch, but they function very differently, right? So anyway, yeah, I wanted to do this video to compare. Now, here's my last thing. I actually think that, for the record, if you do summons on this game, you may be better off waiting for festivals. Just because they're 3-in-1 free. Like, I'm dead serious. 3-in-1 free with characters like Hoshina, Chester, and Kikuru in there now as well. That's probably more value. But then that's where FOMO picks up, right? With limited character again here. So who knows? But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you happen to be new. Let me know what you guys think. What are your plans? And I'll see you all in the next one.